The Wood Circus Saga is one of the darkest collection of songs in the genre known as Vocaloid. The songs document the sufferings of one girl as she slowly begins to lose her mind due to the constant and unending abuse she suffers at the hands of her masters. The saga takes its name from the best known song in the series, as it has the most mainstream exposure due to constant covers from people such as Judy Phonic and Froggy, as well as a lesser known creepypasta reading done by Creeps McPasta himself. As such, many people don't even know that this song is part of a much larger whole. Many miss out on what I think to be is one of the most engaging stories ever put to music. So please, let me tell you the tale of how a young girl went from a beautiful songstress to a deformed circus freak, and eventually to the Grim Reaper herself. But please, keep in mind this is my own interpretation. Feel free to have your own. This is just meant to be a little bit of fun. Steel Cage Princess. This is the first song in the saga, where we see a girl played by Hatsune Miku being kept prisoner by a sadistic queen, who seems to be personified by roses, mainly due to her beauty and her unquenchable thirst for the blood and pain of others. Every rose has its thorns, after all. We see one of her many prisoners as the girl, who is called the songstress in the lyrics. This song is rather different and sets itself apart from many others, as we actually see dialogue between two characters in the context of the song, them being the queen and the songstress. The queen revels in her sadism, deeply enjoying having these people imprisoned for her to torture and torment at her leisure. The girl begs the queen to stop, and for this, she is thrown in a prison cell, with no other bed but one of thorns. The girl's bravery in the face of such evil may show that she was in good standing with the queen, possibly as a member of her court due to her beautiful voice, which maybe is what gets her chosen by her new master later on. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The songstress begs for someone to rescue her from the prison cell, but as far as we see, nobody comes for her, and she continues to wait within her cell. Despite the queen's constant words of hopelessness and despair, the songstress continues to keep looking for the light of day within her dark, damp cell, showing that she still hasn't lost hope. That will change later. Wide knowledge of the late madness. This song begins with showing the girl from Steel Cage Princess, as it seems she somehow escaped. The first 30 seconds show her in a white gown on a white background, but slowly the background turns to a crimson red. We later see the girl being carted off by someone with a rather sinister mask, or maybe even it's their face. We see that the time in the queen's care has taken its toll on the girl, as she blankly stares off into the distance with mismatched eyes. A metaphorical symbol for her madness, perhaps? She is confined to a clean, white room. Far better accommodations than what she had under the queen's care, that's for sure. Well, the neighbours, on the other hand, there's much to be desired. There are two of them, confined to the same cell. With them being twins, it would be unethical to keep them apart, of course. Well, only one can go into the operating room at any time, that being the girl, played by Leeton, as they have to be apart for only a little while. During the night, however, the doctor returns to pick up the boy, played by Ren, and takes him to be operated on. We don't know what the surgery entails, but judging by the screams and the chainsaw, we can surmise that it isn't pleasant. When the doctor takes the boy to be operated on, he sees the girl, and flashes her a look of such madness that it would make any sane person's blood run cold. But the girl, having known such pain and being a little mad herself, pays it no heed. Just after this, we see that the girl is thinking of red flowers, possibly a callback to the last song, as a way to show even further that these songs are connected. Just a thought though, as we then see a transition from the flowers to the window of her door, being covered in blood, and holding the silhouette of someone with a devilish grin. A pile of body parts is then shown, with one part in particular holding the attention of the audience. The boy's head. We see it rolling more than Miku in Rolling Girl or Marie Antoinette, but the head soon finds its way to a young boy played by Kaito, who we then find out is named Pochi. Pochi takes the head into his mouth, to which the girl says, "Pochi eats so much." I think you can piece the rest together in your head. We see that he simply brought the head to the twins' room, however, where we also see the other twins' head, but only one body. Strange. The girl sings how it's soon to be her turn, and that she's looking forward to it. This shows that she has no idea what's going on, but I suppose that's for the better. At least it won't be difficult. The video then turns into a twisted repeat of the beginning, with the girl spinning over and over a red background, constantly repeating, "Watashi, watashi, watashi." At this moment, the singing stops completely and the music changes into something different, something almost cheerful. We see the girl wake up in a dark room, with the art style being changed into something more realistic and more anime-like. As she looks around, she sees the twins, now never to be apart. She sees Pochi, with the dog's collar around his neck, and a woman with red nail polish leading him away. Then we see the girl's face, in fear and shock at what they have become. Dark Wood Circus. Now we've made it to the song from which the entire saga draws its name, the infamous Dark Wood Circus. This is where we see what became of the children after their stay in the White Place. We start this song with a new character, a young girl played by Meiko, seemingly entranced by some kind of spectacle. We then see none other but the twins, still together, putting on a show, having fun. A close-up is shown of the twins looking down happily at the audience, but for a few fleeting frames, you see their eyes turn crimson, and their once sweet smiles stretch from ear to ear, looking madder than a hatter. Throughout this, text is flashed on the screen, most likely the twins speaking to passers-by whilst handing out leaflets to the circus. The girl takes one, but sees that they've left, leaving red footprints guiding her to the woods. It's night. The woods are pitch black, but deeper there stands a great tent for a circus for the mad and the deformed. I will explain the nature of these circuses at the end of the video. For now, just know that sometimes reality and fiction aren't as separate as we'd like to think. Lightning flashes and we see what I believe to be the ringmaster of this circus, who appears to be a giant black cat, judging by the ears. Why it's a cat, I have no idea. Maybe it's some Japanese myth I have no idea about because I'm a filthy pleb. Nevertheless, we see the twins, this time far more detailed, with the scars from the operation clear all over their bodies. Or, I guess, body. Finally, we see the girl again. At first, she seems normal enough, other than a peculiar blindfold on her face. But then, we see what those doctors did to her. Her legs are that of a goat. Then, we see Pochi again, the only one who seems to be in any way contented with his life of eating raw, cold, and decaying flesh. On a side note, Pochi is implied to have his brain switched with a dog, mainly due to the animalistic nature he showed in this song and in the wide knowledge of the late madness. He was also wearing a leash in the end of that song. From this, I think that Pochi is not the name of the boy, but instead the name of the dog who now inhabits his body. Good boy. The girl is then shown, she is slouched in the corner of her cage, having lost all hope and innocence. At this point, the song turns from a cheery circus theme to a depressive and melancholic orchestral. She sings of her pain, singing of her twisted and mangled body. Len takes over singing that it may be painful, but it simply can't be helped, that this is now their life. Reen, however, seems to have fully accepted her fate, playing the role of the jolly jester, putting on a show and saying how it's just so fun. Now, this is when things get really dark, so I'll just say it straight. The girl is implied to have lost her virginity, and by my guess, not willingly. Fruit is often used as a metaphor for virginity, specifically fresh fruit, and the line, "rotten fruit to dissolve my eyes." Well, this could be the saying that the girl's fruit is now rotten, saying that she may have forcibly had her virginity taken from her. I said it wasn't pleasant. The girl screams as she sees that someone is looking in on her from a hole in the tent. She begs to be freed, begs to be let go, begs to die. We then see the girl, played by Mako, looking in, and behind her, a shadow bearing the outline of a cat. She's swooped away by the shadow, implying that she will be the next freak to join the circus. Two giants are then seen dancing, which could be some other experiments, or two people who are in league with the ringmaster. We simply don't know. Perhaps they are not even giants at all. Perhaps it is simply from Mako's own mind. I personally don't agree with this, as we actually see them outside of her perspective, but nonetheless it's plausible. Either way, we do see them dancing, so I'm edging towards the latter, that they are in line with that they are in league with the ringmaster. After this, we see some images and text. Now it's the images that I'm interested in. They show the children, normal and smiling. Not smiles of madness, nor false smiles to stave off the punishments of the ringmaster, but actual smiles. Many believe these images are of the children before they became freaks. I personally do not believe this. I believe that these images are from the girl's own mind. Dreams of a life where she and her friends are normal. But slowly, reality begins to creep in, and she sees her and her friends for what they truly are. Deformed, distorted, and most of all, destroyed. A town. The town where the song began. We see a girl. Brown hair covers her face. She runs up to you. Yes, you. You. Come by and see them. Come by to the dark Wood Circus. Blue Iced Castle. This song shows that the girl has escaped from the circus and seems to be married to some man, judging by the ring on her left hand. However, the ring is talked about with the line, "The pledge on the left hand freezes," which could mean that the girl's marriage to this man is a cold one purely born out of a want, purely born out of a need to escape the circus by any means necessary. However, it seems the girl is haunted by the ghosts of her past, despite her freedom, as throughout the song, there are constant references to an Ice Queen, which I think is the girl herself, as after the trauma she suffered at the hands of the Red Queen from this first song, she could be fearing she's, in a way, becoming like her, only instead of the Queen's sadism, she is now simply apathetic. If this song is truly a sequel to Darkwood Circus, then what became of the others? It could be that the girl simply abandoned them at the circus, and is now feeling intense guilt for leaving them. This plays into what I think is the reason why she killed herself. I don't believe she killed herself due to an unhappy marriage, as after the pain she suffered at the circus, and to finally be free and to throw it all away because of a loveless marriage, though I'm drawn to the idea that this was simply born out of the guilt and the fear that she is in some way becoming the queen that had started her sufferings all so long ago. The girl eventually harbors so much guilt because of her abandonment of her friends that she decides to kill herself. Her death is then pinned on her husband, meaning that her guilt and her taking her own life has caused someone else's life to be ruined, merely adding to her sins and further explaining what's to happen next. Hey, I'm just gonna put this in while I'm editing. I just wanted to say that I actually don't believe what I just said. What I just said is actually just what I mean in the context of the song itself. I don't actually believe that, as quite honestly that's just textbook victim blaming. So I just wanted to clear that up just in case anyone actually thinks I actually believe that. What I meant by that was just that being in the context of the song and explaining what happens next in the song itself. If that was actually a real life case scenario, I would not say that. But as it's a fictional character and I'm looking at this from the perspective of what's about to happen to her, I said that instead of what I actually believe. Just wanted to clear that up. The explanation for this song may be shorter than usual, but honestly there's just less to talk about on this one. If you have anything else to say about this song, please let me know. I'd love to learn more. Red Swamp Bottom. Death is said by many to be the worst curse of humanity. A tragedy that takes away loved ones and leaves nothing but despair in its wake. As we see the futility of our lives and the futility of the very pursuit of meaning, there are others who believe that death is merely the next chapter of our lives, and that our deeds in the living world will either come back to reward or punish us. This is the tale of the latter. This is Red Swamp Bottom. The song starts with the sound of fires crackling, which later escalates to the anguished screams of men and women. And to put it bluntly, to those of you who are clearly too young to be watching this song takes place in hell. The very first line of the song is one of pain, as all other songs in this series, but Now the pain has reached its zenith. Speaking of coral reefs that are sharp as needles, and fires that burn your skin to ash. We know for certain that this is hell due to the constant mentionings of sinners and eternal sufferings. But why is she here? The girl who on earth went through hell. Her freedom, her humanity, her dignity, her purity. And now she's burning with the ones who took it from her. I think I know. All the answers lay in the last song, where I hypothesized that her desperation to escape the circus by marrying a man she did not love turned her to abandoning all the other freaks and leaving them to wallow in pain, misery, and now, with betrayal, envy, and rage added to their sufferings, they endure day after day in this state. I also said she may have ruined her husband's life with her suicide, as people blamed him, and her suicide also probably added to the weight on her soul, as it says in the Bible. All this dragged her down to hell. Also, in the same vein, there was a mention of eyes melting away, which could be another connection to Wood Circus. Just a thought though. When the song nears its end, of just wallowing in her own pain and misery for the past 2 minutes, we hear the girl talk with God himself. She begs to be let out of hell, but speaking through the voice of the girl, he speaks coldly, saying how her selfishness and her sins have brought her here. Which lends to my theory even further, that she abandoned the children at the circus oh so long ago. God and Scythe. This is the last song in the saga, and now we see the girl in her final form as a Shinigami, which, to those of you who haven't seen Death Note, is a death god. We see her body covered in barbed wire, and she's wearing a white gown. No doubt to remind her of where she was turned into a freak. We must remember, she is still in hell. However, it seems she was able to strike a deal with God. In exchange for her rapture from hell, she would play the role of judge, jury, and executioner as a Shinigami, to cast sinners down into the swamp from which she once belonged. Other than wider knowledge of the late madness, this song holds the most apparent connection to others in the series, as there are constant references to the swamp, as well as it actually being shown in the music video itself, with the girl standing just above it, with one toe in the swamp itself. Later, she says how she took the hand of a sinner and sent her into the swamp, something that brings a tear to her eye in the video. This shows that even without the barbed wire, this task is still causing the girl pain on an unimaginable scale. As far as I see, she's still a child. The girl is now standing just above the swamp, with the colours being faded out of the screen. We hear that she now must judge her beloved, her husband, the man who saved her from the circus. She has to cut him down and send him into the swamp. Why, I have no idea. Perhaps he was actually cruel to her, and I just had no idea, as it wasn't mentioned in the song. And if that's the case, why does she call him her beloved? Why does she seem remorseful for sending him down? Strange, right? Well, she has not been freed from her physical sufferings in the slightest. Indeed, her sufferings may have only increased, as now she stands alone with her body marred and scarred from the barbed wire that binds her to her scythe. Her mind now pains more than ever, with no one to share in her grief or her pain. Only memories of the one she'd left behind, the queen so long ago, the children at the circus, her husband who she now casts into hell, and the sinners who once shared her fate. She thinks back to the Queen of Red, looks down to her blood-soaked gown, and wonders, how much redder must this gown become? I just added that one for a little bit of extra flair. Explanations. In this part of the video, I will be going over the real-life events that may have inspired the Wood Circus Saga. Namely, freak shows, or, according to my research, pleasure tents. Bear in mind, once again, that this is part of the video is unscripted. I just thought it'd be better to give this part to you straight up and raw, instead of reading from a script as I've done throughout the rest of this video. I hope that you enjoy this part, because God knows I didn't. According to my research, Wood Circus actually falls in line very much with these types of pleasure tents. I don't need to go over what I've said. Once again, if you want to recap, just go back over to the Wood Circus segment. I don't want to repeat myself, especially when it comes to things like that. Now, when it comes to actually doing proper research, I can't really give much, as most of what I've seen is just hearsay. But the problem is that apparently these circuses were pretty underground, and you weren't allowed to take pictures. And on top of that, perhaps the documents were destroyed that documented these circuses. Tickets sold, promotional material. I doubt that it would be so underground as to not be common knowledge. Almost kind of like the Mafia in 1950s America. Everyone knew it was there, but nobody really talked about it. Well, unless you caught Martin Scorsese. Look, the way that I see this is that it could be that these circuses are in fact real. And if they are, then this saga is a retelling. It's telling the story of children who has suffered fates worse than death in these circuses, in these pleasure tents, in these debaucherous shows, and the sheer depravity of it. And if that is the case, if these were real, and if this entire saga is a retelling, then I'll never be able to see these songs in the same way again. Instead of seeing them as creepy while enjoyable pieces of music, I will instead have to see them as a retelling of a story of pain, a retelling of a story of suffering, and most of all, of a loss of innocence for the most precious and most vulnerable among us. So that was the Wood Circus Saga. I hope you enjoyed, and if you didn't, then something I guess we can resonate on. No, I did enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the research, but I enjoyed making this, so thank you for watching.